So Dave, who do you think hits harder, the barbarian or the rogue?
Sometimes, Ted, you just want to sucker punch someone.
Yeah, but there's sometimes you just want to rage punch someone in the face.
What if we did both? Hello, Nerdarchy Dave here from Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds, and today I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Nerdarchy is a place for news, views, and homebrews for the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Sometimes we talk about other stuff too, you know.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to tune to that notification bell.
All right, we're going to do another character build. Adventures League Legal. We've been liking that challenge of trying to see what kind of things we can mash together. And this video kind of came about because you're like, I want to rage and sneak attack someone at the same time. How do we do that?
Well, I've been doing a lot of barbarian reading. I've got a new player character that I'm going to be doing, after the turn of the new year. And sometimes it's fun to see like how things, mix and mash and what have you. And for me, like the barbarians, almost every time you see them, like give me the biggest honking weapon I can find. I want that D12. I want that 2d6. And sometimes I think like barbarians with 2 weapons is cool. And it got me thinking, and like, well, you can sneak attack with short swords. So imagine like sneaking attack while rage, because there's nothing that says you can't. So how do we make this work?
Well, I mean, we do have a couple of requirements. All I know, though, is when Nerdarchy Ted is like, I've been reading a lot of barbarians. I just envision him like holding up a grog or something and reading a barbarian.
Reading about barbarians.
Possibly sitting on the can. I don't know. That being said, right, the requirements for raging and getting the extra rage damage is you have to be making melee strength-based attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't specify what kind of weapon you can do with it. So you're absolutely right. Now we're going to start building this this character, and as always, our sponsor D&D Beyond, which in the description you can find a link to the character sheet so that you can follow along with us as we talk about it. D&D Beyond has all kinds of other great features as well. They're putting up videos. They have articles over there. We use it for campaign management as well as creating our characters and doing other great stuff with D&D Beyond.
When you dive into D&D Beyond, it makes things so much easier. You got those hover cards that give you the instant ability of, well, what does this do? You don't need to scroll and go back through pages to try and find what you're looking for. It's right there for you. Whether you're making characters, whether you're looking up monsters for your encounters, whatever, D&D Beyond makes playing D&D so much easier.
So, go to that link, follow along with the character sheet. You can also go over to the DM's Guild. There's a link in the description to get the character build guide as well. It's pay what you want. $1 million is fine, or nothing is fine as well. So you can use both of those resources to follow along as we discuss this character build.
Obviously, we're going to be looking at, if we're going to rage and sneak attack, we need barbarian, we need rogue. What else are we, going to need to consider in here?
Well, we are already losing damage because we're using a smaller weapon, smaller die, so we can kind of compensate for that a little bit by doubling up and using multiple weapons.
All right, so fighting with a pair of short swords or your favorite pair of rapiers.
Ugh, the double rapiers. I hate that so much. I don't know why. Everyone is like, here's a historical picture of them doing it. And guess what? It looks goofy in those pictures too. So, one of the first things is, since we're building this around sneak attack and rage, maybe we should discuss what are the actual weapons that this character is going to be able to use. Because we have to throw out one complete category for sneak attack, and that is ranged weapons.
Absolutely, because this is a melee-based character, because you can't rage and hit someone with a bow.
Now, you've already mentioned rapier and short sword. There's a couple other options as well, though.
All right, what do we got?
We've got dagger. We've got whip. None of them are optimal because they're D4. It might be fun to do it anyway, but you could. And then we have scimitar. Scimitar is actually the best middle ground because it's a finesse weapon and it's a light weapon. And in order to dual wield weapons, they have to meet both of those requirements unless you take the feat.
Right.
Rapier is actually the only D8 weapon that I'm aware of that is also finesse that you can sneak with. It's almost like they made it for the rogue.
Looking at it, Dave doesn't really like the double rapier. I don't really see it as an effective fighting style with my 45 minutes of rapier training in my life. I don't
Yeah,
see
you
fighting
ain't
with
it.
two of them. Yeah, laugh at that as you will.
Well, that being said, fair enough. But you have trained for a few years with the German longsword.
Yes. So we're going to look at the scimitar. And when we start going down that direction, that begins to unravel this character in fun and interesting ways.
All right, so we're gonna reskin our barbarian a little bit less primal and savage, and we're going to kind of reflavor rage as like this whirling dervish ability that this like combat trance that they're able to enter into a couple times a day and become more effective.
And what that does is it's still going to have the mechanical effects of, well, you can't concentrate on a spell, you can't cast spell, so all that stuff goes out the window. All the mechanical rules of rage are the same. But as opposed to like the yelling, the screaming, the over the top, this character becomes so hyper focused in the moment. Everything seems to slow down for them, and as they swirl and basically dance around the battlefield, like what we've heard of historically, like the dervish fighters.
Yeah, so the idea is the resistance they're gaining from being the barbarian and raging has more to do with them, moving with the blows and deflecting them. Is more so than just absorbing them, like the barbarian does in my imagination.
Absolutely. And this again just adds flavor to what we're building and makes it like that much more like, oh, I'm drawn into what this character can do because it's slightly different, even though mechanically it's exactly the same as what we've already seen.
We'll start with what race we're gonna do. Then we're gonna pick our first class, and then we're going to go into background.
All right, now you kind of like took this concept that I came up with, and you brought it along to this dervish idea. And anytime you're talking about, oh, let's make a barbarian-esque type thing, you're always going to look at races that are going to get bonuses to, strength, to constitution, and there's a number of really great choices, that are out there.
Yeah, I think for race though we boiled it down that we're like, well, this could potentially be a very feat heavy build. So we're like, we probably want to start getting feats right away. We also already said we want to fight with scimitars. So while it's not necessary, there is a way to do it better.
If we go with human, we're going to be able to assign our +2 bonuses with the variant wherever we want. It's going to give us immediate access to dual wielder. And while we don't specifically need it to fight with scimitar, it's going to give us the ability to draw both our weapons at the start of combat, which we need to do because we need that bonus action to rage, as well as it's going to give us a +1 to our armor class when wielding the two weapons.
One of the things I found tricky about being a 2-weapon fighter is getting both your weapons out in the first round if you don't have that feat.
You could be like, I carry it around everywhere, so I've always got one ready. And that tends to, put people at ill ease. But, it's a way around that one mechanical issue.
Right. So with that being said, we went with human. We took that feat, and we also went a little bit different and took the performer as our performance as our skill.
So again, we kind of talk more to like that blade dancing. Having a love of swords, even before I started training, I've always looked at, what people are able to do from a combat standpoint as just amazing. Again, I'll share a little bit more of, Ted's personal background. In college, I totally took a elements of dance class, and my final performance was like an imagined sword fight. Like, it was just me moving about the room, being in mock combat, and, teacher loved it. It looked like a dance to her. All right, so next you said, we're going to look at class options. We obviously, have talked about Barbarian. We've talked about Rogue. If we're going to go 2-weapon fighting, there's definitely, options out there that, should be considered.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the downfalls to Barbarian as a martial class is you don't get any fighting styles. We're going to address that later. So our first class level we're going to take in Barbarian.
Yeah, this gives the immediate training into your trance fighting. You don't need to. I go into a rage. No, no, no. You go into a trance. You get into your fighting style. Forget this rage nonsense. That's not what this character does.
Now, that being said, also when we're looking at combining with Rogue, we can't actually take the scimitar. Rogue doesn't get scimitar, so it kind of pigeonholed us into Barbarian anyway. If we wanted to start off with that, but we do. We were fighting with our two scimitars. We got it going on. So next, we're going to take a look at our background.
All right. When the two of us and Nerder Doug were discussing where this character build was going to go, Doug wasn't sold on this at all. He's like, yeah, not really buying into the theme of it. I'm just going to kind of sit back and let you guys discuss. And when we got into background, and we started talking about, maybe this character is fighting with a pair of scimitars. Maybe there's that more desert themed warrior that you see with the bigger looking scimitars, not the little thin Drizzt scimitars.
Yeah. I was definitely feeling like an Arabian vibe or Middle Eastern vibe, for this build. Nerder Doug was like, after we went back and forth on different backgrounds, said, what about an anthropologist? And the idea is that wherever this group of people are, this particular character has come to study them and maybe educate them, prophesize to them, whatever. But he or she has kind of entrenched themselves within this community, within the society. But in doing so, they've kind of really absorbed and adapted and completely have gone native.
It went in the other direction rather than this anthropologist going there to share his culture or her culture. They adapted and like, I'm so in love with what you have here. I'm going to abandon everything I know and immerse myself here. And it winds up creating this, beautiful, background texture of, this, focused warrior with a little bit of a studious background, which I just love.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, we're going to get insight and religion from it, which is kind of cool because like the idea that they fully embrace the culture and the religion. From Barbarian, we took athletic and intimidation, and we also have performance. So it really makes for this very interesting, eclectic set of skills. But not only that too, like if you want to put this into like a pop culture reference, I would consider this the reverse 13th Warrior. I don't know. That sprung to mind, and for me, it's just kind of like a fun build. So next up, we should probably look at our stat placement.
All right. So we've already said we're making a barbarian, so we need to focus very heavily upon those physical stats. We've already decided that we're going to go human. So since we have floating +1s, we really can put our numbers wherever we want. We're going to put our 15 in strength, 14 in dex, 13 in con. This character obviously is more physical than mental. So we wanted them to have a little bit of more personality and a little bit more book smarts than wisdom, because let's face it, you've kind of got to be a little bit more susceptible to things if you're going to abandon your culture to adapt to somebody else's.
Yeah, let's face it, this character, instead of converting them, got converted. And we also were like, well, you know what, they also might be a little foolhardy, so I think we know where we're going to put our dump stat.
So we went with an 8 wisdom, a 10 intelligence, and like I said, we wanted this character to be a little bit more personable. So we went with a 12 charisma. If we look at things like intimidation and performance, both of these could work well for this character if we have a charisma bonus to play with.
Right. So next thing we did when building this character is for our second level. Where did we go?
We went with Rogue. Diving into Rogue is going to automatically start giving us our sneak attack damage. We're going to get a skill. We're going to get expertise. And, rather than doubling down on our expertises on skills that we're really good at, we're going to use those to dive more into the culture and the mechanical fallacies of the character. So we went with those insight and religion that we got from our background as our expertises. Our skill, we went with acrobatics. We've already got athletics. We've already got performance. Now we've got all of the physically performing sword skills that we're going to be able to do whenever it comes to showing off in or out of combat.
One of the things I really like about taking that expertise in insight, even though it doesn't seem to make sense because they're a dumb stat, what it does is it takes something we're poor at and makes us kind of good at it. But not only that, it speaks to the fact that this individual is actually really good with people. He's good at making friends and reading people, despite the fact that he's kind of weak-willed, or she's weak-willed, and susceptible to things mentally. But at the same time, when it comes to interpersonal relationships, they're really good.
Absolutely. And this winds up only getting strengthened as they gain levels. The other thing it does is, although we are building a barbarian type character, you then are a lot more flexible outside of combat, because you're going to be able to have some skills to engage in conversation with NPCs.
Now, next up, we discussed one of the weaknesses of the barbarian as being a martial archetype, not having fighting styles. So we decided to plug that hole.
All right. Now, I know what you're thinking. We're made a martial character, and we're diverging away from our path to be able to get that extra attack. Now, we're getting the sneak attack damage, and we're getting the second attack from our offhand weapon. So we're already starting off with 2 attacks, and we're dealing the damage from rage, we're dealing the damage from sneak. So this character isn't going to suffer from, other characters outshining them in combat. So we felt going into fighter is going to start getting us some other things, and specifically, first level fighter gives you a fighting style, and I'm certain you know where we're going to choose.
Right, 2-weapon fighting. Now we're going to get our strength bonus to damage with our offhand, as well as our main. So that's going to help us a lot. Fighter gives us some other great abilities too. So like second wind, we're going to also get that D10 hit die, which is going to be useful as well.
Yeah, well, we're spreading out the hit dice, here between, our D12s, our D10s, and our D8s. But overall, we're still going to be, pretty high. And you kind of, miss the whole, big picture of fighter, and that's action surge.
Yeah, taking another level in fighter, taking our second level in fighter, you might as well get action surge. Super useful.
Now, to me, I still think it's one of the best abilities in the game.
So next up, we're going to be going back to Barbarian and rocking that for a little while. We're going to take several levels in Barbarian so that we want to get our archetype. And I think, at a certain point, you might as well just get your ASI.
But you're glossing over, the supreme ability of these things meshing together. Reckless attack as a barbarian gives you advantage. And what happens if a rogue has advantage?
They get the sneak attack.
They get the sneak. So as long as you're willing, you reckless, you get that sneak. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take us a little while to get everything working together. But when we do, it's going to be a lot of fun. Like this character by 10th level is going to be a blast. And it's not, I don't think you're going to be a stops before that. So there's a couple things we have to mention. One, we got that reckless attack and danger sense going for us with that next level barbarian. Then after that, we're actually going to get to pick our Barbarian Path. And for this one, actually, I was thinking Totem at first because I was like, nothing else really fits. But just like Doug, as we started to delve into the character deeper and add that background and discuss how things work from a role-playing and backstory, I totally flipped around on which path we should go, and I went from going with Totem to, maybe Zealot would work for this character.
So you can use either. For our particular build, we went with Zealot, and it ties into the fervor of what this fighting style winds up becoming. And it adapts this focused mindset in a way that mirrors up with the concepts of what the Zealot is.
Yeah, it worked for us really well. And you're going to also get extra damage as well when you're raging. So, again, we're getting to pile on even more damage with this build.
So after we get Zealot, we're going to continue with Barbarian. We're going to get, as Dave says, we're going to get our ability stat adjustment. And finally, we're going to push and get our extra attack.
Yeah, for stat adjustment, we went Con. We were like either Con or Dex for this one to bring it up to a 16. But Con is hit points and armor class with our unarmored defense. So we felt like that was the better choice.
Absolutely. Now we're going to go back to Rogue. We're going to get Cunning Action, which is an interesting choice because like we need our bonus action for rage. We need our bonus action for our offhand attacks. So cunning action is actually pretty weak for us, but we want more things out of rogue. So this winds up being a sad level for us. But if push comes to shove, you've got the ability to move. You've got the ability to disengage.
What it does is it gives you more options. Now, you probably won't use it as much as other rogues, but that's okay. It's there if you need it.
So now we're going to continue with Rogue. There's a lot of Rogue levels here. And now we're going to get to choose our archetype.
Yes, this one I was really excited about. One, we haven't used it in a build yet. And two, for this particular character that we're building, it's going to be super useful. We're going to take the Scout archetype.
Scout is so powerful, in my opinion. Beyond Rogues getting, all of the expertise that they do. Scout just gives you two skills and their expertise when you take it at third level. Oh my word, nature and survival. Yeah, you got that covered. So you've proved your worth in this fighting style, in the group, in the soldiery, the armory, whatever you want to call it, and you're now the person going out in front and finding out what's going on, and having these ranks totally going to help you out in that regards.
So even more important to me is the fact that one of the scout's ability is when an opponent moves to you, as a reaction, you can expend half your movement to move away from them. Right now, our movement is at 40, so we could move 20 feet away because we got we've got the improved movement from being a barbarian. But it's going to get even better later on.
So if somebody is more than 10 feet away from you and they've got only a 30 movement, you've got the ability to use your reaction to just not be in their attack range. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, it definitely gives you more options. So I think now what we're going to do is we're going to abandon Rogue for a little while.
Again, we had toyed around with, how much Barbarian, how much Rogue, how much Fighter. And when we initially started putting this together, we were only talking about we're going to level dip in Fighter just to get, the action surge and the fighting style and move on. But as we realized, we've got all these high-level barbarian or higher-level, mid-level barbarian abilities that might not be as useful to us. We're like, but if we take one more level, we could become a champion and get that increased crit range, which stacks nicely with our reckless attack.
Yes, we're rolling 6 dice around to attack with. So I feel like, taking champion was going to be super useful. At first, you were talking maybe Battle Master for the extra dice and maneuvers. But I was like, I don't know. I think I want to roll more dice and try and get those crits going.
The crits with your sneak attack, it's going to be beautiful.
So, and then finally, we top off Fighter, and we're done with Fighter with level 4, and we take another ASI.
Fighter is going to give you, the ability to get a feat or a stat adjustment. We're going to choose mobile, and, we're already a 3rd level rogue. So if we take 4th level rogue, we'll get another stat adjustment.
Right, and, and then we can max out our dex at 16. So we got 16s in strength, dex, and con.
Pretty nice. You can see that this has got some pretty good synergy. Running around here. We could have put that into con to get the more hit points and the armor class, but let's face it. By this level, you're going to be dealing with some pretty hefty saving throws, and bumping that dex up a little bit. It's going to help.
So from here on out, we're going to do almost all rogue to the end, with a little dash of barbarian to top us off.
So we're going to wind up with Uncanny Dodge, incredibly useful. We're going to get some more expertise out of Rogue. And again, we're going to double dip into those non-prime stats that we have to work with. So we're going to look at performance and intimidation. Let's double down on that, that low charisma, and bump those things up. By now, you've got a reputation and you've got the skills to show it.
Yes, the skills to pay the bills. Yeah, at this point, we have 8 skills. 6 of them we have expertise in. So everything that we do, we actually do them very well.
So we're going to continue on with Rogue. We're going to wind up with Evasion. we're going to get another stat adjustment. We're going to throw that to strength. Now we're at an 18. It's pretty nice. We're going to get superior mobility from Scout. Really useful for us. What does that top us out movement wise?
Well, we were at 40, then we went up to 50 with the mobile feat. Then now we're at 60. So if for whatever reason we want to use our uncanny dodge as a bonus action, we want to move around the battlefield, we have 60 feet of movement to play with that isn't hindered by difficult terrain. So if a enemy moves towards you, you can now use your reaction to move up to 30 feet away. That's huge. There's like no chance. There's very little chance. I can't say no chance. There's very little chance that the enemy is still going to get to attack you. So you can use that to now move behind someone that's even tankier, make them go through areas that would draw attacks of opportunities. You really get to move around and control the battlefield with it. The biggest problem with this character is with all the things you can do with your bonus actions and your reactions, you're always going to be second guessing and trying to decide what is the right one. Should I wait for someone to move towards me? Should I wait and try and use my uncanny dodge? I don't know.
So lots of things, but you certainly are not going to be starved for choice. So finally, 20th level. We've got all of this craziness. You said we're gonna finish off with one more level of Barbarian. What does that give us?
All right, so that one more level of Barbarian is going to get us Fanatical Favor. It's going to get us another Rage. Pretty much, you could have gone anywheres with this one. There was so many choices, and none of them were particularly better than the others. So you might have went to Rogue instead. Fighter was out because I was going to get his extra attack, and we already have it.
Right. Rogue would have given us reliable talent, I believe.
Yes, which is really
So
good, but
that's-
we're feeling it for this build.
For this, the Fanatical Focus really was a good get for us. You start off as a Barbarian, you finish off as a Barbarian. It's a good bookend.
Yeah, it felt full circle. So with that, now let's talk about ways we can use this character in our game as the Dungeon Master.
Well, I mean, this is the kind of character that, when you describe what it's doing, like the players aren't going to have an idea that this character is a barbarian, that they're raging, because nothing about them tends to give off that kind of indication. I mean, yeah, you might be eschewing the armor depending upon what the stat placement of the NPC is, as it just seems hyper focused and dancing around the battlefield. Like you'd think it's more of a battle master or just a straight up fighter.
Maybe even a monk.
Maybe even a monk that focused on specifically the scimitar. But when it's moving around the battlefield faster than everybody else, in the party, like the players are going to be confused, and I think that's going to make it a fun encounter.
Well, not only that, just the sheer amount of mobility that this character gets on the battlefield. That part might confuse them a bit. So I'm thinking of this as, we really kind of talked about this character going native and being from another culture. Literally, you could just rip off Avatar, not the Airbender one, but the blue people, right? So the idea that this person has entrenched themselves and they had an initial objective that maybe they've given up because they've just fallen in love with the society and culture and have become a part of it and have abandoned their old quest. The players have been sent to finish the original mission, bring them back, maybe both, maybe punish them for not completing the mission and helping the other side. So really, in some ways, you could have a good party, and this could actually paint them in the role of the bad guys.
Yeah, that just speaks, miles to interesting interactions. Well, what if the players and this character they're good people. Nobody wants to hurt each other, but because this anthropologist has been so engrossed in this culture and has abandoned their ways, like they're willing to fight and die for their new life. Maybe again, adding more layers of trope. What if, they fell in love with someone that was there, and, that is why they stayed in. Then it becomes a question of, well, are both of them willing to leave? Do you, as the player characters, do you forcibly separate these two people that are in love? I mean, this is outside of your realms of combat. This is hardcore, dire role playing.
Yes, I mean, it's going to be a moral quandary for your players. And there is a ton of tropes that have already covered this, right? So you as a GM don't have to really look too far to find other stories like this. The Last Samurai. I think there's several different books and movies based around Native Americans and white settlers where this happens as well. So there's tons of tropes that you can kind of dig in to kind of like create these role-playing tensions and drama within your game that doesn't necessarily have to be a physical conflict, though it could be. It just gives more options.
Absolutely. You could divorce the whole, romanticized and, the role playing, portions of this, and just use this as a culture. These are the people that, this is their fighting style. This is what they do.
Or these are their elite warriors.
These are their elite warriors. And, as you're going out and exploring new territory, no one has seen, the dervishes before. And when they start, moving in battle, players could be terrified. You could create some kind of fear effect based on the way that they're, spinning and whirling these blades around. You could do a lot of really fun things with it to try and get the players thinking like, should I actually engage these guys in combat? Should I pull back? Should I be worried here? And those are moments that you love as a GM.
Yeah, you can kind of set the scene, right? Like, the players have been sent to do whatever, and all of a sudden the sandstorm kicks up, and stepping out of the sandstorm are these figures. They're completely covered head to toe in clothing and robes, scarves, turbans, headdress, whatever. All you really see is their eyes. They're using these curved swords. And then, I would say like this is their leader, and then you have some mooks, some bandits or whatever, and then there's this elite dervish, and then maybe he has an advisor assistant, maybe like a druid that specializes, it could be Circle of the Land or some kind of caster that specializes in desert type magic. So it could be very thematic.
Absolutely. And, nobody wants to, go fighting in a sandstorm. It's not fun.
You get sand in all those places. So the question is this something you guys and gals will use in your game? We have a place where we can talk about it. That is down in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, if you really like the content that we're doing on these videos, come check out our Patreon. We're making awesome content every month. And, if you support us on Patreon, not only do you get it first, but you get it cheaper. Our products are going to wind up on the store, but you get it faster, you get it cheaper, and you're going to get access to our Patreon-only Discord, as well as other cool Patreon benefits.
On your way down to the comments, don't forget to stop by the description so you can find the link to the character build guide as well as to D&D Beyond for that character sheet so you can follow along. Help out the channel by checking out our sponsors.
So until next time, stay nerdy.